wherever you're joining. Okay, cool. Please consent to the meeting being recorded. Just click got it on your end. So I hope you're having a wonderful morning. Should it be morning wherever you are, or time of the day. So my name is Philomena Mbura. I'm a data scientist and with Africa Ambassador for the last 4 years now. Welcome to today's session. So we'll start by maybe posting on the chat how you're feeling wherever you're joining from and which country you're joining from. I'll give you about a minute to do that. Please share that on the chat. Oh, great. Egypt. Awesome. Welcome, Shima. I hope I said your name correctly. Cape Town. Awesome. Malawi, Tanzania. Oh, great. We have great representation. Kenya. Awesome. Ooh, Germany. Okay. We're going beyond Africa, eh? Botswana. Okay, great. So I'll go ahead and start. I'll start with the first session, which is just giving you a broad overview of what WiDS Africa is and what this datathon is about. So WiDS Africa is a part of a global WiDS Worldwide, which was started at Stanford University. So we usually hold about or over 150 events all over the world. So specifically for Africa now, we have about 7 countries represented. So just before I go to the rest of the introduction, in case you feel like you'd like to become a WITS ambassador and you'd like to join WITS Africa specifically, please do reach out to us and we can guide you on how you can become a WITS Africa and you can get more representation in different countries. So right now we're about 7 countries in WITS Africa, represented by our different ambassadors. And this year we plan to have 2 events, a WITS Datathon, which is with this one, and we'll be covering health and data and where data comes in health. And now for the WITS conference, which we plan to hold in April in Cape Town. Please do look out on our socials for that. We'll be sharing more information, and our theme for that event will be AI for Good. So for the past few years, we've been holding the conferences in different countries, so whether virtually or physically. But we've had it in Kenya, we've had it in Tanzania, and we've had the pleasure of now doing it in Cape Town. So please do feel free to reach out to us in case you need any more information and you'd like to maybe be connected even beyond what WIDS Africa is doing. There are also other specific conferences within the different countries which are maybe closer to you. So you are not limited to just WIDS Africa. You can go beyond WIDS Africa and you can even attend the global events in different regions. So welcome so much to this session. It's going to be just a very brief 2-hour session. The purpose of this session is to equip you with the skills to be able to participate in the global datathon that's now happening. So the datathon is not limited to Africa, it's global, but this workshop is supposed to enable the people who are in Africa to be able to participate much better and have an idea on why we're doing this and how to be able to do it. So we will cover the theory bit of health and data, and we'll also cover the technical bit of health and data and how you can even be able to participate on platforms such as Kaggle in case you're looking for that practical experience. So thank you for joining again, and we hope you find this session very informative. Please feel free to tweet and tag us at WIDS Africa. Use the hashtag WIDS Africa Datathon, and feel free to also post your questions in the chat so that we can be able to answer them at the end of the session, which is after all the sessions we've covered. We'll have a brief session where the ambassadors will be able to cover some of the sessions. And also, if you have a question in regard to the session that's being held at that moment, whether it's the technical or the theory, please also post it. And immediately after that session, you can have your questions answered. Okay, cool. So I have the pleasure of introducing our first speaker of the day. So, Ruth Nduta, I'll just read her bio real quick. So, Ruth Nduta, the dynamo at the helm of the Chief Product Officer at Mundali. Ruth is not just in the business of innovation, she's leading a global charge to revolutionize public health by championing collaboration among communities worldwide. A proud alumna of West Africa in Accra, Ghana, and a current master's in big data student at the University of East London. She's on a relentless pursuit of excellence. Wow. With a BSc in Electrical Telecommunication and Engineering from the Multimedia University of Kenya and a diploma in Data Science from Moringa School, Ruth's educational journey forms a robust foundation. Her expertise spans the technical intricacies and analytical dimensions of software development. Ruth's passion unfolds in the realm of artificial intelligence, where she garnered significant experience steering various AI projects, recognizing AI power to drive inclusion. She's committed to reshaping the impact and measurement in the global health sector. As an entrepreneur, Ruth is on a mission to empower individuals and communities by unleashing the transformative force of AI. She stands ready to leave an indelible mark in the ecosystem. Her unwavering commitment to building inclusive AI solutions positions her as a key player in advancing technology for social impact. Away from the tech world, she enjoys working out, finding solace in the pages of business books, and poetry during leisure moments. The floor is yours, Ruth. That was a really good bio.
Thanks, Philo. I'm not sure who wrote that, whether it's me or Jennifer, but let me just share my screen real quick. So I know we're all on a time crunch. I'll try to save as much time as I can. Okay. We have a full house, no pressure. Okay. All right. I hope everyone can hear me. So that's me. I'm Ruth. I'm the Chief Product Officer at Mundali. Mundali Health, depending on which sector we're focusing on. So a little bit disclaimer, because I understand the topic that we're talking about is quite sensitive. Health needs to be respected in all aspects in terms of privacy, and the data and opinions here reflect my own views. So I was very excited when this topic came up because this is something that I have been through previously, before my life, before Mundali, and now currently at Mundali. I'm happy that this is to be part of the ecosystem that is building solutions in AI in healthcare. And when we speak about healthcare, I don't know what you guys understand, but according to me, healthcare, and according to the research that I have done, healthcare, you can't live, work, and play when you're not healthy. So you'll see a lot of SDOH within my presentation. So those are basically the social determinants of health. So for you to be wholesome, you need to live well, you need to eat healthy, you need to have an active life for you to sustain a healthy lifestyle. And generally speaking, when you're talking about healthcare, you're talking about everything that affects the impact of and well-being of a person, right? But I might get skewed more into healthcare, into what is it called, the medicine bit of it. But just bear in mind that whatever solution you're building, it focuses on the health, the wholesome healthcare industry, from mental health to your physical health to other aspects that are not really in health, but definitely affect your health. So if I don't sleep well, my health will be affected. But sleep and health, someone might not really see the, what is it called, the direct comparison. So As you can see, AI is already in healthcare. There's so many solutions out there nowadays, both software and hardware. The wearable devices that we get to walk around with and measure our pulse, measure our heart rate, our symptom checkers, AI-powered medical images, the AI-aided drug discovery we've all heard about, the cool companies building and trying to work around the DNA and see how AI can help in drug manufacture, in DNA systems, AI-assisted claims approval, that's in the bit of insurance, financial med, and medical fraud detection. So why does AI matter? So despite all this, and this is according to research in the National Health Institute, too bad it's in the US, 5% of us, only 5% is the only percentage of the world that has benefits to healthcare organizations that are using AI tools. So this makes you wonder, what about the 95%? And this is a potential gap. So the WiDS Datathon and everything that you guys are trying to build really aims to solve a bigger part of the problem. So you're part of the solution generally. To join that, I just gave a few examples of startups in Africa that are part of that journey, solving for the 95%. The ones, these are listed on Mundali. These operate in Ghana, Accra, one in Lagos. All these are very young startups employing AI. Justify AI does amazing work in reading X-rays using AI. Eden Care is based in Rwanda, as well as Zuri, Jacaranda. Those are Kenyan, Farmaran, and MDoc. All these are young startups. Some of them have been around for quite some time. But at the end of the day, they're all trying to push the message, be it telemedicine. Jacaranda Health built its own LLM, which is kind of cool. You guys should check it out. So they all try to bring AI into one aspect. One, either to make their processes run smoother, either to reach the customers faster, either to provide better services. So I like that hackathons help you come up with all kind of scenario. But at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, which problem do I want to solve? Okay, I want to solve that problem, but this is the challenge at hand. How do these two relate? What can I learn from this hackathon that I can directly translate into the practicalities of what problems currently face us, especially here in Africa? I'm biased on startups because I'm an entrepreneur. I've seen how easy it is. Easy? No. How exciting and challenging it is to incorporate some of these technologies into smaller businesses than using iconic legacy organizations, because you get to have the chance to play around, iterate a lot with the customer. Oh, and not to mention that also Mondelez is part of the conversation, because how does Mondelez incorporate AI? So as Philo had mentioned briefly, what we do is that we do impact reporting for health organizations. So a lot of these organizations, where do they get funding from? They get funding from external investors, from grantors. So at the end of the day, these guys need to see a report about what they do. So so that's the gap that we are trying to fill. So we come and have our reports. So we are currently training our own model in-house, where we're going to have to be generating the reports depending on your company profile and what your customers are saying. So we use in various, both in report generation and also in impact analysis from what the community says about you. Very targeted towards community. We don't accept reviews and feedback from the company itself, because there's an element of bias. So we aim to target the communities which these guys are. So let's review Zuri Health. What was the experience with them? We help you verify that, oh, these are the best in the game. They do what they say they do. Now, this was quite interesting, unpacking challenges to responsible AI adoption. So what exactly is stopping us? What exactly is stopping? I mean, health is one of those, health education, it's one of those key areas that we ought to have seen blow up in the age of AI and its evolution. But what is really stopping us? Now, I'll be eager to share with you that these are the three main that I found out, because even as I remember my friends are building startups in health tech, the main issue that they were facing is that trust, that trust that I tell you, oh, please can do this. I know it's your life and you're used to having this doctor or human interaction. If I tell you I can offer you therapy, would you believe me? Or would you even want to try my solution? Would you be able to cancel your appointment to your therapist and book my AI bots to therapize you? So there's that fear of change, there's that fear of unknown, and that fear of algorithms. Oh, they gotta know too much about, which I mean, they're all valid, at the end of the day. So I'll just go briefly through every one of them. And what I'm definitely proposing is not the fear itself, but how can we mitigate all these three changes? If you look closely, this how I'm going to frame this is can you tap into how can you tap into these solutions and build a solution around this, whether it's in the hackathon or later. I'm going to be giving a couple of examples as we go along. So fear of change. So status quo is always perceived as harder than it actually is. I'll give an example here. Fear of change. So let's say we want to donate organs. I mean, organ donation is a thing we've seen in movies. I don't think once it's done in Africa, it makes headlines. So why is it that we find it so difficult that our patients, we have maybe people close to us who we know that, okay, their end of life is near, but they have very healthy organs. Can they use this to support another budding life? Why is there that, there's still that hesitation? And what can we do about it? If we started talking about this earlier, that's part of the communication strategies and visual strategy, right? If you start talking about making it a norm, now it's a norm that we steal kidneys to sell, but it's not a norm that we actively want to donate a kidney to someone. You get my point? I see a lot of people on WhatsApp groups say, oh, my cousin needs blood. This, at least I appreciate that blood donation has come to life, but that has taken immense effort and resources, both from global help and also internal governments. But so part of that fear of change is communicating with the audience, your vision and your strategy. How do you do this? How do you really earn the trust of the person in the village? I always want to go back to that person because I am that person. If communication strategies didn't work and got to me when I was in the village, I don't think by now I would be here. And then also access to the right tools. I find that a lot of people wouldn't trust African doctors. We'd have to go, export our illnesses out of the continent, go get better treatment, then come back. But is that really how we want to live forever? It's about time we started to have access to these tools and people who are willing to use it. And if the tools are not there, how can we help solve this gap now with artificial intelligence? The fear of the known. If I was to tell you guys right now, take the guaranteed $500, or let's play that flip a bottle game, and whoever wins 10 rounds gets $1,000. I don't know, which one would you guys go for? This one I would love to hear from. I'd love to hear a couple of people tell me, which one would you rather go for? Which one would you rather go for? The guaranteed $500 or the one that we have to flip the bottle and see who wins? Guys, can't you unmute?
Oh, you want us to speak?
Oh,
I
yeah.
type. I would
Okay,
pick
okay, you can
500.
speak on it, type. You pick the
I would
500.
pick 500. I might end up with 0 shillings with the 1,000.
Why? You can give it a chance. Haven't you played that? You know that game?
Yeah,
Guaranteed.
But
Yeah,
it's chance.
exactly. You're gambling with chance. Anyways, so there's that also fear of unknown. So most people prefer certainty to over uncertainty. And this breaks my heart because this is a gap startups really try to solve because we operate in an uncertain world. There's nothing certain about what we really that, oh, our solution is gonna work. It's you having faith in us to really work around it. Take a chance, put $30 on that subscription and see, oh, is this really worth it? Let's say in dating apps, which definitely use AI for the recommendation systems, right? What would it take for you to actually pay for one and not start, oh, let me just take a chance with the free version? Can you be like, okay, I'm gonna take a chance on this and pay and see how it turns out, I mean, I would encourage us, let's all move to the 50%. Always take chances. It might turn out otherwise. So how can we mitigate this again? Run pulse surveys. Again, I keep saying that always have contact with, stop building. I see people say nowadays building public. Stop doing your work in self-containerized silos. Try to engage as many people as possible just to break the market before you start building something that you end up finding nobody really wants. I mean, you might build a whole solution, build a whole model, you've trained thousands and thousands of data, but at the end of the day, who's going to use your model because you didn't really involve them in that process? Again, this gives you an opportunity to upskill. I mean, if you get to understand, why do I Google everything that I say to my friend offline? The next thing I Google, I see ads on that. If you try to understand what these things happen, it's those little technological doubts that really build up in time for us to not trust any technology. I mean, it just takes Twitter to start a certain propaganda about a certain technology and people unsubscribe. But if you're really upskilled on it and you kind of understand how this works, you'd be like, that's I'm definitely sure about what I'm saying. So again, I mean, I think there's a quote about knowledge. I've forgotten about it, but it's what the diver doesn't for sure. And then that ties up to both fear of algorithms. This I would not hesitate because artificial intelligence is becoming too human. I might have fallen trap of one of those videos that people keep saying, oh, yeah, artificial intelligence might take over the world. But at the end of the day, with the right regulations in terms of governance and our actions in mitigating bias, this is where I'm going to spend a couple of time on the next few slides on mitigating bias, especially in healthcare. You will find that it's that will help us really believe in artificial intelligence. But right now, if I Google something, if I Google a patient and I don't see Black patients, or you guys have heard about all the lack of diverseness in data sets used in training by these big organizations. Why is Africa not heavily represented as such? But let me ask you guys, if you're building, how many guys here eat a lot of American food? No one, because we don't have access to it. It's the same way with the guys building big corporations. They don't have access to unfiltered, clean, filtered, clean African data. So how do we expect them to incorporate that into their businesses? So that really fuels the bias in training data in terms of machine learning. So, I already went through these slides. Okay, yeah. So let me just quickly go through this. So AI applications at Mundali, what we do the predictive analytics. So what we also do is that through the service that we conduct, we collect information about the health needs from the people. What would they like to see improved in their community, in their ecosystem? With time, we're building a predictive model that will help us be able to predict this and direct funds to those problems impact report analysis that I already said. We already leverage on some GPT tools to analyze huge reports done by existing organizations. And also, in terms of collecting surveys, I realized since I can't speak Twi, I have to have something that speaks the local Ghanaian language. And that is what we partnered with an organization that's building a text-to-speech model basically for Ghanaian dialects and also, let's say, the West African languages over here. Now, responsible AI adoption in healthcare. Structure, training, ethics, technology, and partnerships. These are things that we can do in terms of smoothing the pipeline. Now, one thing I always say in machine learning, look at the pipeline that you're working with. Even in the hackathon and the data set, the first thing you do, you explode. You don't clean or explore data. You clean data and do data exploration. Then you come and pre-process this data before you build your model. Now, I used to hear people say this. I thought it was a lie. And then I proved it true. And then now I have to come also be part of the message that building a model, that's just a by the way. The real work is how do you understand and pre-process this data? And that is the point where I want to challenge you ladies to really put your foot on the ground for. That data you're working with, how well do you know it? How well does that data show representation and diversity in terms of your end goal? You go collect a GPT model, come train it with whatever data that you get on the internet, because you didn't take time to really understand what kind of data am I dealing with? What kind of, what's the end goal I want to be seen? Like, am I doing a prediction? Do the classes make sense? Is my data well balanced? And when I talk about the kind of data, I'm not just talking about balancing the target variable and the other variable. No. Really look at the factors you're feeding this model. In terms of, let's say you're trying to predict, let me see what the current hackathon was predicting, just a minute. So the primary model of the models you to build is to detect relationships between demographics of the patient with the likelihood of getting timely treatment. You see, this data, if I was to, I didn't touch the notebook really, but how skewed is it? Basically, challenge will be asked to predict if the patient received metastatic cancer diagnosis within 90 days of screening. So if this is back to the social determinants of health that I was talking about, if the patients do not have access to the right sources, to the right environment of hospitals that they can access medical care with, do you expect that the 90% will be skewed towards those that received care for the metastatic cancer diagnosis or not? So you kind of have to be checking what kind of features am I feeding this model? The devil is in the details, weirdly. And I feel like I miss doing data analysis so much because the exploration and the pre-processing, that's where you really crunch these and you get robust evidence to really support the model that you're building. Look at how the graphics, the living conditions have been sparsed through the data. What does that tell you? What story can you come up with during the exploration? I know we all want to do df.duplicate, df.this, or man, let's go to train, test, and split, and then we build the model. Now, if you really want to build unbiased and models that are really going to move the needle in healthcare, spend time in the pipeline. The pipeline, whatever you're feeding into the model, let it make sense. Make sure the data set is balanced in terms of gender. Look at what's the gender distribution here. What can I do? If, remember, you guys, let's say this was to be deployed in live environments, how many lives will die because of your model? How many lives would say, how many models would say, oh, this patient doesn't have cancer, and yet the cancer is still growing in them. It was just not detected because the features that you fed your model were not sufficient to detect cancer or something in that person. So that comes down to the trading and the ethics of the data. I promise you, that's why I started with a disclaimer. In health, there's nothing like, oops, I forgot. You are joking. I'm not joking. Dealing with human life, it comes with its own, what can I say, volatilities, you know? So assess the companies also, your technology. Some of these models, I urge you to kindly do a bit more research. And this, I'm speaking definitely in terms of public facing services. I'm talking beyond the hackathon. Oh, yes, you built. Now it's time to get back on the ground and do the real work. And partnerships, there's always someone doing something. Remember the pages I showed on startups? That's why I love startups. We love to collaborate. We love to let you in and build up on what we already have. We love to give opportunities. Guys, immediately after this hackathon and you feel, oh, I've learned enough here and it has sparked my interest, I want to give it a shot, right? To one of these startups, they're always willing to have extra hands on deck. But what value are you really adding? You get my point? Don't just write, oh, I'm here. You said we should apply as an intern. I'm here sending my, what value can you add? Hey, I went through your website, I checked. And going through the process, I believe I can help the company make things more efficient. Targeted responses in terms of partnership, I find them to work all the time. As I said, these are the social determinants of health, education, access, and quality. You might think that, oh, me doing something in finance doesn't affect people's health. But remember, financial insurance, a lot of us, if we cannot afford, some people go to foreign countries. I remember I was there because when I came here, I said, I cannot afford to be sick. This is not my mother's country. I'll just call her up and say, oh, mom, send me some. No, healthcare is very expensive in some countries. If you don't have insurance as a new resident, then if you get sick, you see the quality of care, your quality of life definitely goes down. Okay, I think I've been told. Am I on track? Okay, I'm almost done. Give me a minute. Let me spend some time on the social determinants of health. So again, even in the data set, what are some of the aspects before you say, oh, this feature doesn't make sense? How does this have to deal with this? Come back to this wheel. Look at where does the person stay? What is the environment like? What access to basic necessities do they have? The social and community context, that's in terms of, oh, do they work out? What's the relationship between cancer and not working? What's the relationship between this type of cancer and the people who used to work for longer hours, you know? What's the, how does education affect health? Healthcare access, just, you know, spook your mind. Ask some of these questions and let data guide you. Let data be, you know, your guiding light. So I think that would be the end of my presentation. And yeah, great. I hope me doesn't mean thanks, but that's in tree in Ghana. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ruth. That was very informative. I honestly learned quite a lot. I think my key takeaways from the session was when you're doing your building your model, you need to understand your data, especially given that health is such a sensitive matter. Understand your data, understand how your model is working, because here at the end of the day, you're dealing with human lives. Also, another one was how fearful humans are. You know,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of fears of change, fears of what, fears of unknown. And I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, that's me. I said 500. There were thousands. So yeah, it was interesting. Thanks so much for that session. So please feel free to post your questions. But then for now, we have a question here in the chat. Let me just read it to you. So I think the most important challenge of AI in Africa is ethical consideration and guidelines and policies at country level. How do you deal with that in your practice?
Currently, I'm staying off the radar, I won't lie. Because luckily we are all growing, both us and the regulators. I see right now there's a lot of conversation in every country, literally Nigeria, Kenya. Everyone is trying to set up rules. But again, there's so much excitement in the field because one person said that people trying to regulate AI don't really understand how that works. So I don't want to say that we are currently working with the existing international standards because Mundali is based both in the US and here in Ghana. So we try to really align with country policies, especially in the US, because as much as, yes, we are young, it will come biting us in the ass. So we have our legal frameworks at place. I think we invested in legal way before we invested in talent. So yes, the data is proprietary. We are very aligned with, especially our apps on mobile app and on Play Store and Apple Store. We have to follow guidelines. The models that we use, we check the licenses that we have. That was something brought to attention that if you use an open source model to build your own model and build business on top of it, the law will come to you and they will say, because you use an open source model, you have to open source your solution. So are you ready to do that? So those are some of the fine prints that you kind of need to read, especially with the millions of GPT models out there. So yes, I believe our lawyers, our legal state is quite airtight for sure. So I always, let's say I'm about to engage a certain software off the shelf, like off the internet, I definitely have to check with the legal team. Is this, what do you think? Can you check the fine print? Are we missing anything? And then end up building it. And I think that's why most people prefer building it from scratch so that you can own your own rights 100%. But do we really have the capacity now? So we just have to attune to what is there. You're quite right. This is a bit challenge. Yes, that's true. So that's my response.
Okay, great. Thanks, Ruth. That was really good. Someone says here, just as we finish up on the session, great session, Rutha. My key takeaway is data is king. And then someone says, Junakawa, it used to be cash is king, now it's data.
That's very true because right now what we are campaigning also for is for communities to speak up. People don't know that, if you don't tell me you need a sanitation facility within your community, a company will come and build a school. And they're wondering, why are people not attending the school that we built for you? It's because we didn't need a school. We needed better wash facilities. So communities, let me tell you guys, you think data collection is easy, but that's, I feel like at this point, there should be data science and data collection. That's a whole topic on itself. Quite tricky, quite challenging, and people are really not forthcoming because of the three fears. What will this data be used for? Oh, what? Please just give us data. We really need to build solutions for Africa, but we can't do that with American data sets. We can't do that with New York data or Boston data. So yeah, from experience, how has the uptake of AI products in resource limited settings? What challenges have you faced? And some solutions you have applied. Resource limited settings. Would I say low and middle income countries are, Africa is a low resource setting, but it really comes down to the customer doesn't care. I really don't care whether you're using AI or automated Excel sheets to deliver your solution, but I want a solution to the problem. I can't go to the customer and start saying, in Mondelez we use AI to do math. I need a solution. Whatever you decide to use under the hood, that's for you. So in terms of what challenges have you faced, it doesn't really, the end client, I think there's still so much education and awareness to be done to non-tech people. Because those of us who are in tech, yes, Netflix can do this. It even knows me. It knows which movie I want to watch. They don't understand there's a whole recommendation model working behind. But what Netflix does is serve them what they want. No one ever asks, let me see the recommendation model that you use. Let me see the data that you're feeding to your collaborative system. Let me see what kind of filtering are you doing. No, we don't care. The minute I hold my remote, I just want to flip through channels that you have recommended for me. What will make me not go pay for Prime Video is, Netflix knows me. I've already built that relationship with this system. You don't know you've built a relationship with AI. Now, in terms of health, what will make me talk to Zuri and not any other chatbot that has come along? I mean, if I have already fed Zuri my data the first time and I just have to pick it up from there, hey, remember the medicine you sold me the last time, it didn't work. we have already personalized that content. I don't care what's working behind Zuri. That's for Zuri's CEO and tech team to worry about. That's, oh, they use the AI. Me, I know I'm texting Zuri, and Zuri is a person. So at the end of the day, there's a lot of awareness to be created. But then when I ask for data, then that's when you know, oh, okay, so you need me to be telling you these things. You see, that gap you're bridging between you and your customer. I feel like a lot of startups that have won have done that. People adopted ChatGPT. Why? Because you can see what you're typing and you understand, oh, why is this doing this? Because it's learning. So that's what I would say to that. And yeah, bringing people along, really. And then there's so much bad media at times in terms doom, what is it called? Doom something.
Doom scrolling.
Yeah.
And with
Like
that,
doom
the
messaging in AI.
maybe 2 minutes
Okay.
because of time.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you can finish up on your point.
So this thing that people keep like saying, oh, stay away from AI, or like what our parents would keep saying, it's those AIs that are killing them. Oh, mom, she got cancer. It's those AIs. No. Like basically just bringing them along in whatever you're building. If you tell a patient, oh, this day I need you to be recording for me your diabetes information so that in the future you will stop recording and I can always tell you how your blood sugar levels will behave. You can take them on that journey. I think bringing people along, building in public, that is one thing I have come to appreciate so very much. Thank you guys. Thank you for God, I love questions. It makes me feel like, oh yeah, I did some. Thank you
So at
very much.
least yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ruth. That was amazing. And if you have any questions, please feel free to post it and maybe we can have a session at the end where she can be able to cover them. I think I saw Chinaka already raising her hand. Please also, if you could, hold that question till the very end so that we can finish up on the session. So up next, we'll be having Rahel. Rahel is actually one of us. She's one of the ambassadors. She'll be doing an introduction to WiDS 2024 Datathon Challenge session. I'll just take a moment to read her bio. So Rahel is a senior data scientist at Adlu. I have a hard time saying that name. Adludio. I'll post it in the chat. A leading ad tech
Yeah, that's
company.
right.
Thank you. A leading ad tech company in the UK, where she leads a team of machine learning engineers, a computer science and engineering graduate of Makel University in Ethiopia. She contributes her expertise from her home country. Rahel's experience in participating in competitive challenges is extensive, including Kaggle and Zindi, and joining hackathons in diverse areas such as machine learning, quantum computing, and large language model. In 2024, she joined Women in Data Science, reinforcing her commitment to advancing diversity in tech. Beyond her professional realm, Rahel is passionate about traveling and exploring diverse cultures, a pursuit that enriches her perspective in both her personal and professional life. So, welcome, Rahel. That amazing bio as well.
Thank you so much. So, hi everyone. I will just take you through the challenge, what you need to do, how to register, and I'll just give you a starter book so that everyone should and could participate. So let me share my screen first. Can everyone here see my screen? Is my screen visible? Yeah?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So I have prepared a notebook. I will share this with you, but first let me just take you through what you need to do. So the first thing you need to do is register through this link, and like the important dates to remember are in February 27, team formation and entry deadlines, and then there's final submission. It's March 1. So, and then winners will be announced at March 2. So you should be able to register and like form with teams, or if you're participating individually, you should just register by 27th. and then you only have like 1 week left to this challenge, but you could, let's just make sure that everyone here and your networks are registered and participated and like have a chance to win this challenge and learn. If this, okay, let me just go through the link first. So I will share this with you. So you should first register through this link. This is the WiDS Datathon 2024 registration link. Yeah, you should just register your name, email, city, and so on. This is don't just go through to the Kaggle immediately. You should first register through this link so that we know like who's registering, and like if you get a chance to be a winner, then we know who that is and where that person is from and so on. So register through this link, and then you will get an email for registration, and then everything will be in that email. It will just give you a link to the Kaggle challenge, and then it will take you through like what you need to do to just join the competition, form a team, or just join it individually. And then you can go to the data to see the data and so on. And then in 2-3 days or less, actually, you'll be invited to join the Slack channel. And there you'll get like every information you need. And then you can ask people and so on. So this is like what you need to do. Yeah, so just a brief about the WiDS Datathon 2024 challenge one. So the title of this challenge is Equity in Healthcare. So you'll just read through all this challenge, understand it, what it is about, like where the data came from and so on. So the goal of this challenge is like to be able to predict so after someone or after a patient is examined, then how many days it takes, or like does that person actually get diagnosed within like 90 days or not? So in that you have to do it based on a prediction model. So if you're new to Kaggle, then I will just give you the link, and then you have the overview. You can read through the overview of the challenge. Everything is very well described. So go through it and then understand the data. So this is the data. So it's a prediction task, and what you have to predict is this like variable that's like diagnosed. If the person was diagnosed in like 90 days or not, that's like a binary prediction. But first, like as Lincoln is mentioning, you should really understand the data. Like everything about it. The data is also described here. All the columns are here. What's like patient ID, race, and so on. So everything here is described. But like this is not enough. Obviously, you should just read the data and then see like the distribution, how each variable affects the final output, the interrelationship, like the correlation within the variables and so on. So I will just go back to the notebook. So there's your registration link. Make sure you register like over the weekend. And then, yeah, you will have that the data set contains the training data frame, testing, and sample submission. Your submission will just be a CSV, so you're going to upload a CSV of format that's given on the sample submissions. So just I have tried to put in some of the process in building like a machine learning model. So the first thing you should do is like read your data and then do some EDA. These are just few of them, but you have to really go deeper into the data. So yeah, you can do descriptive analysis and see like so you can check out like what each variable is, the distribution of it, how it's like put in there, and then like you can also see like how that's how each variable can affect the final output. So just go deeper on this. Yeah, these are simple EDA stuff. You have like the distribution here. For example, for patient's age, you can see like how the age is distributed from the given data. So like I just put like some few examples here, but you have to go through each variable and like see how what each column or variable looks like. So as Ruth was mentioning, the main important thing to do here is to understand the data. So like get deeper in that. And then you can also see like a relationship between variables, like how they affect each other, or if there is a relationship, how does like patient age and BMI relate, and so on. So look at like every data in this manner. And other thing is like correlation. So what are correlations? These are just showing correlations are like this is a plot that shows like how each variable relates to each other. So yeah, so all this thing will help you like in building your model. So for example, if two variables have like really high correlations, then you might need to, drop one of them, because it will just one will be informative enough for your model, and then adding more will just will skew your model or your results. So things like that, you should like go ahead and explore the things you should do, why you should do EDA, what's the purpose of it, and so on. The next, like looking at the like outlier detections, because these things also affect your model. This is just simple pre-processing in EDA model, EDA like process, so that before you actually go towards like building your model, you should really do all this like for each of your variables and so on. So and then you can also do like feature importance. Here I used random forest, but you can do any other model you prefer or you think is suitable for your data, and see like which features are affecting your model. Like you can rank them and then see maybe if they're not that important, you can drop them, or like see what you can do with them and so on. Yeah, and then you can also see like I was checking that also from this data. I was like, it was surprising to see that some of the columns are like have like really high missing values and so on. So you should be able to know how to tackle that. Are you going to fill it, or if does it like really bias your model, and then if that's the case, then should you drop it and so on. So you should also be able to decide and like learn from the data. So just take time to work on the data pre-processing and understanding more. Okay. Next up, you have the preprocessor, as I said, and then finally you can you have like a pipeline that predicts your model. So I have like tried it with a simple random forest classifier here too, because it's just a binary variable that you're predicted. And then finally, like you have your model. It's just really not optimized models. It's just a first trial, so you can still upload this model, but then make sure you improve it, because you're also. And then yeah, this is the format of the submission. So running this notebook cell by cell will give you this result, and then you can still upload it and make sure that you participated. But because it's a competition, you should improve it. You should learn like where to improve it and so on. So just please make sure to take time and like improve this result. And then I have also tried to put some points on improving models performance. So like read through them. They're like, it could be hyperparameter tuning, feature engineering, especially like I love if you can take more time in this part of the process. And yeah, doing cross validation, feature scaling, and so on. So I've also tried to do like a model optimization or have a parameter tuning using grid search, but you can also use as a audience if you want to. So this will give you like it will give you like base parameters to train your model with, and then you can try them on. But like as I said, like this is just a first trial and for everyone to participate in submit their results. But if you really want to do a good job, then try to improve it and make sure you ain't like anyone in your network participates in this data. I think that's it from my side. I just try to keep it short.
Okay, cool. Thanks so much, Rahel. The purpose of that session was just to give you an overview of how you can be able to come up with your own notebook and build a model end to end. I think that was very elaborate. We'll share a recording of this session and some of the resources from this session after, so that in case you may have missed the gems that she had shared during the session, you can be able to just go and maybe, if you hear where she said, you can choose how to deal with the missing values by replacing, maybe do a bit of research and see whether you're going to drop or something. Then now you can go ahead and do further research from what she has shared. Just to encourage you, in case you're new to data science, I know it may feel like a lot seeing all those graphs and things there. Just feel encouraged and just make sure you keep going. Be gentle with yourself as you learn through the process. You're going to get there eventually. You're going to be writing code like Rahel one time, you know. So Tanya just
Actually,
shared.
much better.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
And also I've shared the link, so you can just check it out.
Oh, great. Yeah. So, in case you want to check it out, please go to the link there. Also, Tanya has shared just a tip to add to the many EDA tools. Pandas profiling can be used to quickly profile tabular datasets. It gives you plots and distributions of each variable, summary statistics, etc. Yeah, Pandas profiling is actually usually great. I use it as well. So just to mention, we are inclusive of any gender during all of our sessions. So regardless of your gender, feel free to attend our conferences and our datathons. It's not restricted to just women. Yeah, so thanks a lot, Rahel. So we'll be moving quite swiftly to the next session from Angela John. Let me just switch my screen for a few and read her bio. So Angela John is a PhD student at Salland University and a research assistant at the Interdisciplinary Institute of Societal Computing. She has a diverse background in data science, machine learning, and computation, combined with a passion for using tools like Python, R, and spatial data to tackle societal-based challenges. Angela's research focuses mainly, but not limited to, monitoring, reforestation, and carbon offset efforts with machine learning and computer vision. She leverages the power of Python to analyze satellite imagery, develop predictive models, and track progress towards environmental goals. Prior to her PhD, she spent 2 years as a data scientist, where she built a recommendation system tool using Python for managers' decision making. This experience instilled in her the value of using programming languages like Python, practical applications, and data-driven insights. She also has a strong foundation in education. She's also serving as an assistant lecturer for computation and statistics at the Cooperative University of Kenya, previously MKU. Angela is always excited to share her passion for Python, research, and its applications in various fields. She's eager to create networks with participants and help them learn and explore the power of data science tools in solving societal challenges and understanding society. Welcome, Angela. The floor is yours. And amazing bio as well. Y'all are doing big things.
Yeah, so thank you very much for this chance to be here and we share this. We're going to, I have a kind of slides, and partly because it's the technical, we will then most of the time go to the notebook to try and see the guide we can take through. in our presentation, the way I have arranged the presentation is such that we can start with a person who has never used Python before, then we go to the people who have interacted with data, and then later on we'll try to also cover for the expertise some part of it. So to quickly start with, we have been talking about AI, we've been talking about machine learning, and there are a number of tools that we can use to achieve all these technical modeling and everything in AI. And Python is one of them, and the most popular, I could say, for the cases or for the projects I've worked, most people could prefer it as compared to other tools like R. Those who have used it R before, there are those who use C++ and some more other tools. And one of the reasons I prefer Python individually is the way it's easier to use other than other programming languages. It's like the interface of Python is so easy, even if you are new, it will give you that aspect of like, you feel that it's not intimidating. You try to go for C at the beginning. To some people, it might not be so friendly to use, but with Python is that much easier to use. For instance, if you can see in my right hand, I've shown like a snippet of C++ code. If you were to type in a program which prints hello world, with C++, you could have to do all that, but with Python, you just go in, do print, and because you are in string, you just print that. So it's a kind of that understandable. One other thing why I also like Python, or why most people could be using Python, it's functionality. You know, with Python, you can move from creating interactive plots, which you can do in Power BI, to programming the software chat apps, which you can do with Scala or with C++. And because of that, I think it attracts many people, I could say. And also, like Python has a community. If today you had a problem with any technical issue with Python, I think you go online, you could find a lot of communities where you can be able to try and get the solutions. And also the fact that you can be able to even build your own function or tool in Python encourages people to use that. So talking of Python, I've said that there are a lot of functionality in it. And if you were so new to Python and you wanted to learn it, from my side, I tried to group it into 4 specific groups, but it can be more because there are many functionalities. Starting for Python for data science, Python for data analytics, Python for software development has a little bit different kind of content you could learn, or you could try to work on if you wanted to take that part. Then you can also have Python for mobile application. That is, if your interest is on building the applications. And because of the data that we are handling in this challenge, I think that it could be of importance if we take the part of towards learning Python for data science, or towards handling technical aspects for Python for data science and data analytics, which can have many steps, but for beginner, kind of, it could be the first step could be you need to get the tool, or you need to get the interface where you're working on. That's where you download and install all the requirements from Anaconda, from Python, from the Jupyter Notebook if you want to use it, and for those who prefer the VS Code, and even with your Google, without installing anything, you can use the Google Colab if you have an account, a Google account. One of the main, the next step could be now to try and look at the main building packages in Python, and Number is one of them, which could help you leverage or go through a number of things. And we'll go to the notebook and we can see this. From just printing, from learning, from trying to create arrays, trying to index your data, trying to reshape or transpose, to even broadcasting. Another most used library is Pandas. Pandas helps you because, for instance, in the challenge, we are dealing with a data frame. there are many things you can do with pandas, starting from loading the data, trying to filter with quorum, trying to sort your data, trying to summarize, and to even aggregate this. And you can even do some for loops with pandas. The next step could be if you want to have some joins, then another most used library is matplotlib. If you want to have your data represented as a visualization, which is easy to understand. Then after visualization, the next step could be you now trying to dig deeper into this machine learning that we are trying to talk about to solve solutions. And later on, still Python for data science is expanding as we are going to NLP, we are going to web scraping, we are going to automation of DevOps and all that. So this one, I think I'll share, and it will be shared to you for those who are starting to install from the beginning, so that we save on time and try to do some technical part. So through the presentation, we just start from basic programming, that is for technical. We load in the data and we do some cleaning and pre-processing. This is because if you remember from the two speakers who have gone ahead of me, Ruth and Rahel, they've tried to talk about the aspect that the data we give to our model determines how well our model is going to be. And that is why for the time I've worked with data, one thing I've realized in the pipeline, you will spend more than 50% or rather 70% of your time cleaning the data. And the modeling part is like you spend like 10 to 20% of your time. This is because if you have good data coming in, then you are assured of getting a more precise or accurate result. But if you give in garbage, that's how it works even in Python, whether you're in Python in R or in an aspect, if you give in garbage, expect to get the output as the garbage. So we'll spend much of our time trying to do the pre-processing, then we'll look at the graphical presentation, then quickly on machine learning techniques. Before we go to the notebook, I want us to now first get this idea of we are going to deal with data, but which type of data are we going to deal with? How are we going to handle different types of data? Because as we understand our data, the data set that you have might not have only integers, like let's say we are talking about the glucose level of each patient or the BMI. Those are like things we expect to be in numbers, either in integers or in float numbers. But for instance, we were supposed to, you have a doctor and you want to get a feel of the feedback from patients about you. They could be writing a lot of words, and this is going to be the string parts. And the operations that you are going to do with floating are not the same operations that you are going to do with strings in that case. So these are some of the commonly used data types in Python. So this also I will leave it for us to try and do it on our own case, or we will handle it. One of the other things I will want to highlight before we still shift to notebook is the fact that in most of the times you're going to deal with your data, and in this data you're going to have like you have data, you want to do some calculation. For instance, you want to create some specific columns that you want to use later, and you want to at least not keeping up to repeat the same operation or the same code over and over again. This is why you introduce what we call the variable name. And variable name is like a box, it's like a memory where you store your data, such that later on, if you want to use it, you just call that name and have the data that you stored there instead of just having to repeat the whole process. To that extent, I would first want us to go to the notebook, try to do some few things with what we have said, and then we'll come back to the slides. So I'm using the Anaconda that we already have the installation details in the other part. This is because we need to have the platform, as I said, what we will use to kind of do our Python code. We cannot do the Python code in slides, for instance. We need to do the Python code in this interface. There's Jupyter which some people will want to use who prefer it, but I always prefer the Jupyter Notebook for the beginners and for even now when you are advanced, because it's so easy to work with unless you are doing some kind of more complicated stuff. So quickly we talked about the data types, and my point is, if we want to get data into our notebooks, how could we enter data? We want to correct data, for instance. People have given you data in Excel sheet. You don't want to read that data direct, maybe you want to enter it into Python. How could you enter it if it was a string? For a string, what happens in Python, we always have a string in between the quotation marks to show that it's a string. That same case happens even if I had to say like, let the number,
Angela, are you sharing a different window or?
It's still, oh, sorry. I didn't share the whole screen, sorry. Because I'm on the notebook and I think, I'm sorry for that. I thought I shared the whole screen. Okay. I think now, is it on the notebook, please?
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm sorry for that. I didn't notice I was sharing just part of it. So this is like a notebook we have. This is the kind of how the notebook is, where you can be able to save your file if you want to save. You can edit it. You can be able to add more cells for the code. You can be able to even add the markdown if you want to add some markdown and so on. So I said, for instance, you want to enter data into Python as a string. One thing you could do is like you will have it into quotation like this. And even if, for instance, we had a number like 1, 2, 5, 4, and you say you want to print now, this is like, it's still giving you a string. And on checking the type, we always use the function type to check the type, if it's a string, if it's like, if it's an integer or it is a float. This is a case so different. We entered a number because it's within the quotation marks, we entered it as 1, 2, 3, 4, but it still said it's a string. If I just enter the same number, sorry. If I have the same number and I say now it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and I go and ask for the type of 1, 2, 3, 4, you definitely realize now it has said it's an integer. It's the way I entered it. That is just a basic. You can also, we'll also get this to interact with the operations. Let's go to the data. I want us to just quickly go to the data because that is more of what I think should be helpful to guide you through the challenge. So I took one of the data from the Git repo, which is the healthcare dataset stroke data, which is an example like of an healthcare dataset. And I already have it in my system. That's why you can say I'm now trying to import it to Python so that we are able to use it to do a number of operations. Already we have said, we have seen it, or we have discussed from the previous speakers that we insist on this aspect that whatever data you give to your model, expect it to give you exactly what you give in. If you give a good data or a clean data, then your model is more likely to be so accurate. If you give a garbage data in, maybe you're going to get some results, but they are not going to be representative of the results that you want. So the first thing you do when you have your data and you want to do some operation on it, it could be trying to load the data into you will try to load your data into Python environment, whether you're using Notebook, whether you're using Google Colab, whether you're using VS Studio. That will be the first step you will take. And to import data into the data set into the notebook or the interface, you first need to understand the type of data you have. The way we read the CSV data is not the same way we will read the .tx data, is not the same way we will read if we had image data sets. So you need to be very careful and understand that in your first step to do the analysis. So because we have CSV, we're using the pandas data frame that I said helps us to understand data frames and do some manipulations in our data frame. So the first thing we do is to try and get the data set here. Then, if you want to view your data, you can either view the first 5 rows or the last 5 rows. If you want to see the first 5 rows, it could be HC, which is the name of the data. This is just the name I gave it, but you can give any name to your data depending on how consistent you can remember this, as long as you can remember it. So if we were to do let's comment this first, we can go ahead and read the top columns of our data. So there's something I've done, and this is what most people do. The naming I have is not consistent. I now have small c, and Python is case sensitive, so it does not recognize the small HC that I typed. So it tells me this name is not defined. This is because it is case sensitive. Now you see after changing to HC, it shows me what is happening. So we can see this is the kind of data we have. From this kind of data, the first thing we need to ask ourselves is, what is our goal? What will be our dependent and independent variable? What target do we have from the objective? Do we want to predict whether the patient is more likely to have a stroke or not? Or do we just want to predict the average glucose level of each patient per time? Because depending on this, we are going to do different modeling at that instance. With this data that we have, because we have our variables being ID, gender, age, hypertension, and all this, and we have stroke, our main focus will be on predicting whether a patient is more likely to get the stroke or not. So let's go ahead now to, before we do that prediction, let's understand our data. Let's try to see what we have in data before we can even give it to our model. So the first step could be to just get which data types you have in your data set, and get the general information. If you have some missing variables, do you have some outliers and so on. So the first instance, if you want to understand the data types and null and null, this is like these are rows which gives you values in each variable. Null ones, that means those are the empty rows for that specific variable. So we can see if you use .info on your data frame, on your data sets, it's going to give you these columns. It gives us the specific number of columns. And what it does, it also gives us the number of rows which are null. Then it also gives us the data type of that specific variable or that specific column. And from this, if you look through this, one thing that it tells you is that almost all variables has 5,110 rows, but BMI has like 4,909. This tells us that we are having some missing values in the BMI row. And to go to our modeling, we'll need then to address this missing value issue. That is one thing you note from that. And one thing I always do is that I'll be writing down what to address so that you are able to address it before you go to modeling. So you can see direct from this that you have some missing values. And if you are not able to account for them or know how many they are so that you know the way you're going to handle them, either you're going to drop them or you are going to fill them in, you can do the data and use the function is null and sum to get the total missing value for each column. For instance, this is what we have in our data. It tells us we have like all the other columns has all values, but the BMI has like 201 values missing. So we first need to go and think about, we have the old value, the total number of rows in our data set is 5,110. And to confirm this, let me take us to one of the functions that you could use to get the number of rows and the number of columns that you have. That is, we'll take our data set, then we use the function shape so that we understand the shape of our data. So you see, it tells us we have 5,110, which represent the number of rows, and we also have the 12 variables or columns in that case. So we have 201 missing, and from out of the 5,110 for the BMI, do we want to fill in this missing value, or do we just want to instead go in and just delete them, drop them? So that is one decision you will need to make. And in most cases, what people do is either drop it. You can only drop if it's a very small percentage, but if it's more than 20%, for some cases, 20%, this is like from my own experience. It's not given like scientifically or from the Python part of it. For me, if like data is more than, you have like more than 20% missing, it is not advisable to drop that, depending on the amount of data you have and the model you need to create. Because some models, like if you're going to, you want to use something like a CNN, that is convolutional neural network, it might work well with that data. And if you already have a limited data, you don't want to drop some rows. In that case, you will then come in and either replace or fill your missing values. You can fill with either the mean, or the median, or the mode, or you can even fill with a specific value that you want to fill with. If, for instance, you know that, oh, I want just to fill these missing values for BMI, for instance, with 70 each, you can do that by just following this. I have like here a code of it, which I've commented, and also with this, I'm going to share it out. So if you wanted to fill in all the missing values with mean, you go in and use .fillNar function. And within the .fillNar function, you will now give two arguments. The first argument is the value you want to replace with. And the second argument is, do you want them to be in the specific place where the missing value is? Or how do you want to your values to be replaced in that specific column? So you can either fill with the mean, this is what you use. If you can also either fill in the values with the median. You just have all the values in that column aligned, and then they pick the medium and fill all the other values with that medium. And also you can decide to fill it with the mode. That is what you can do. The next thing you can do with the data pre-processing, or with data, understanding the data, sorry, could be to try and see how many unique values do you have for each row, for each of your columns, sorry, for each of your variable, how many unique values do you have, so that all this you're trying to understand your data so that you know how are you going to handle it in the modeling, what are you going to drop, what are you going to deal with. So after that, you can also do some other things. You can try to create some more columns. This is where the feature engineering comes in. You can decide to give some create some other columns based on condition that you want. For instance, you want to say, you don't want the strokes to be, because the stroke quorum has 0 and 1. 1 for the stroke probability and 0 for no stroke, no probability of having the stroke. In such a case, maybe you just want to have them as yes or no. You can create another quorum by just using that stroke quorum and use the apply function to create your new quorum. And the many ways you can do this, it's not limited to using the .apply condition. You can even write functions. If you get time, you can go through building functions in Python or in any programming language. It gives you like a flow chart how you can do it. Like you want to loop through and get some specific values, you can also do that. Into one of the main things now that is going to guide you also trying to explore your data. We all know the descriptive statistics, trying to understand the mean, trying to understand your standard deviation, trying to understand the maximum that you have in your data, and all that. So you can also do this in Python by using the function .describe, which is here. And with this, you're going to have values, which is giving you the count, the total count of all the rows that you have, all the values that you have in each column. And it's going to give you the mean value. It's going to give you the standard deviation, and it's going to give you the minimum, the 25 percentile, the 50 percentile, 75, and maximum. From this, you can be able to see if there is an outlier. You can be able to see the range of your values. For instance, if we look at the age, we can see that the maximum age is 82 from this, and our minimum age is 0.08. And we see at 75%, we have the age being at the 75% percentile is 61. And it also tells us the distribution of our age. The standard deviation tries to like tell you how far from the mean other values are. And that already has given you a picture of the range of age you are dealing with. You know, you're dealing from 0.0 to 82. And from there, you can ask yourself, oh, one of the things I could like to maybe check from this is which age is more vulnerable to stroke than the other? Assuming that we don't know the normal conclusion that is in the research field about the stroke possibility. And you can do this for all the variables to be able to understand that. So the next thing is now us trying to understand what we have in our data. Let's try to understand what we have in our data. We use the stroke quorum to try and create whether a person is more likely to have a stroke or not. Can we understand how many people have the stroke and how many people are not likely to have the stroke? And from this, we can understand if our data is balanced or not. This is another thing that most people ignore when they're doing the modeling. And this is one of the things which can make your model give false results, do an overfit. Mostly what this leads to is an overfit. An overfit is you get a so good accuracy level if you are in classification as to what the true case is. This might be caused by the imbalanced class. For instance, we use the stroke quorum, which we are interested on, the independent one, to see the number of people who have the stroke. So my notebook is taking forever. I need to give an error. Let's go back and see. Yeah, so it says, could not convert string to float, yes. Okay. Now, this is some of the challenges you get in your way to handling the data. Why are we having this? Someone could ask us, herself or himself, why are we having this in our case? Why is it like, what does this error mean? And this now takes me to the point of trying to tell you one thing that we need to always do. when you get such an error, one thing you could try to do is, it's telling me it's a value error. Then it explains to you what it is. And there comes in now you trying to check, how do I debug that error? And that will take you back to you going through the steps that you've done previously and see where you have made a mistake or what you're missing. Trying also to go to the community or to even use the online that we mostly do go to try and help you get out the solution. We'll come back to this debugging shortly because it's part of the notebook. So that's one thing I was explaining the point that the imbalanced data set. We have imbalanced data set where you have like stroke, people who have stroke out of the 5,110 are like 100, and people who are likely to not to have the stroke are 5,000. So you have 5,000 for one and 100 for zero. If you're doing now the classification in that. If you model this or you give this to your model, if you had like a logistic regression model for classification, then it's most likely that it will give you results which look so perfect, so accurate. But if we test this, your model that you have trained with another data set, it will then show the error or the gap that we are most likely to face. So what could you then do in that case? In that case, now you move your height higher to the advanced part of it, which I was talking. Then you go to balancing your data. You either undersample or upsample. You undersample the popular class, the class, or you upsample the minority class, so that it is at the same level when you're doing your prediction. In such a case, it's going to be easy. So that is one thing you could do. Another thing you can do, given the you have the integer columns. With the integer columns, one thing we try to do with the integer or float columns is trying to understand their relationship or trying to understand their distributions. This is because the operations we do on integer columns, or how we can understand the integer columns, is not the same case we can understand the string columns. So with the integer columns, like the age, which is integer, or a float can be written as a float, is that we now come in and understand its distribution and also its relationship with some other column which are floats. So for instance, this is our age. I think Ruth tried to show this somewhere else. So we are in this case using the histoplot to plot this, and we can see that all through what we can see is the distribution of the age. The distribution starts from 0, and we can see that we have many number of people at around 40. We have a number of people that also we have a lot of people at this, because this distribution is a little bit like off at that point. And from this, it can tell you like, what do you have in terms of age? What do you expect from this? Do you have like well-distributed, normally distributed age, or do you have a skewed? For instance, if we had only most people between age 0 to 20, it could be skewed to the left. If we also add maybe most people from between 60 and 80, it could be skewed to that. Understanding that also gives you a picture of what you have in that column. So another thing, if you want to see the outlier, you could see it from the maximum and the minimum value that we add in the dot describe. But then it could not be so clear to you as if you wanted to see the outlier in visualization. Well, we now come in and use box plot, for instance. And this is not the only way you can plot a box plot. You can also use the matplotlib library to get the box plot. You can use the plotly, which is for interactive, if you wanted an interactive visualization in that case. And if you see this now, it gives you a picture of where most of your values, most of our glucose level values are. We can see that from our data, most of the glucose level, average glucose level is between, this is around, I could say 70, I'm not so good with approximating, to around 120. This is where we have the most of them. Now, if we had a value which was like, for instance, at 500, that could be an outlier because it's much far away from where most of the values like range between. And with that, then you could come in to either decide to drop the outliers, or you try to decide to scale your data. That is by doing normalization or standardization, so that you have your data together to be able to enhance the results of your model. I've said also with integers or with floats, you might want to understand the relationship between these two variables. To understand the relationship, you can use the scatter plot, which is mostly used. And the scatter plot will tell you at what level of, for instance, at what age, if we were to get maybe a straight line for linear regression, for instance, how could you explain the relationship between average glucose and the age? Do we have any increase, for instance, if it's increasing only when as the glucose level, as the age increases, the glucose level goes up, or vice versa, for instance? Or do we have like a general one? A plot like this, you cannot say that it has a specific trend, like as the age increase, this increase, because we can see all the distribution that even at the age of 0, we have still people having glucose level at this instance here, at this like around 60 or around 70, between 50 to 100, we could say we still have people for all age having glucose level in that level. For that, you could not specifically distinct that, so you understand like glucose level is not so much related to the average glucose. But then you can also do what Rahel was showing at the end, which is like the correlation heat map, which can tell you the direct correlation or relationship between all values within your data set. So I now shift and take us a little bit to what we are used to seeing the percentage being calculated for us so quickly and so on. And still, we can see from our stroke condition, if we count values which are no and values which are yes, we see like 5% are yes, 95.1% are no. If we take this data to our model, trust me, this if we train this data with our model, when we are going to test it with a different data set, which has like, for instance, yes being 50% and no being 50%, you are going to get to see that the model was overfitting, because the accuracy level is going to drop, most likely going to drop by significant level. And in such a case, that is where I said you could now then think of doing the class imbalance. So this is like a kind of still understanding the distribution. That is why I'm trying to go through it quickly. I see we only have like 15 minutes. This is still trying to get the relationship between average glucose level and BMI, but trying to make it interactive. This is with the plotly, which is more a kind of advanced. Oh, okay. We will work on this. I think it's because I have Python crash issues, like I think at this point version. I'll work on it soon after we do this. So that is with visualization what you can do. And with all this, understanding the data, the distribution, understanding the percentage that you have, dropping the missing variables, trying to see if you have the outlier, and if we don't have the outlier from our data, we don't see much outliers, but we see some imbalance, which I said is like imbalance, upsampling and undersampling is more advanced part of it, how to handle it. Some people will ignore it and test with the same data set and all that. Now, I want us to get a clear picture because of the term with this classification. Now you have our data. Now here's a discussion, an interesting discussion going on that you should not test the data with the same data you train with. We now have 5,110 rows, and we want to create a model because we understand that we want to see the possibility of a person having a stroke or no stroke at that instance. And from this, what it is, it's a classification model. Why do I say it's classification model? We know that from the normal understanding of machine learning, we have classification, we have regression. Regression is more of predicting the continuous variable, and classification is more of classifying categorical, dealing with categorical data and trying to classify whether an input is going to be in either of the classes that you have. It can be you have binary classes, like our case, you have like 2 classes. It can be you have like 3 classes or even 5 classes that you're dealing with that. In such a case, you're doing classification. But say we wanted to predict the average BMI of a person, this could be tell us that we need to get a value which is a continuous value. We need to get a value like 100. We don't want to classify whether where this person lies, but we need to take the input and predict the specific value for the BMI. In such a case, it could be we want to now go to regression. But with what we have at hand, what is the most favorable model after looking at our data the first time we looked at our data? It is a classification, because what we are setting the problem to is trying to understand if a person is most likely to get a stroke or not. So it's classification. Now here we are, we have the data, it's 5,000 rows. What are we going to do with these 5,000 rows? Do we just randomly train our model directly, or what steps do we follow? With modeling, what you first do is you try to make sure you don't have any null values in your data. You try to get rid of all null values in your data. That is, use the drop null to get all null values out. Then we need to know what our X variables are. The X is the input you give, and the Y is the response that you expect, or the value that you expect to be predicted. So you need to first start by splitting your data into input features and the target feature. In our case, the target feature is the stroke. And in the other case, the input feature, these are the features we'll give, the values that we need to give the model, then it gives us the prediction or the classification, whether it's under stroke, high possibility of getting stroke, or low possibility of getting the stroke. And what we use in such a case is that you can, first, I like to exclude the strings. The models will not take in the strings when we are modeling. Some models will not take in the string variables unless you convert them to categorical variables using the $apply that we mentioned above. You can use, if you want, if a person is married function to affect your model, if you want whether they're working in private, self-employed thing, you will then need to convert this specific columns to categorical variable. That is, you say if yes should be 1, you allocate them, apply 1 to if yes, apply 0 to if no for married, and so on. And so first in this, because we have not done the converting all of them to be into categorical variable, we drop the objective That is why I said I want to select all data types, excluding the object variable. Excluding variable which has object. I want to select all the others. And I also say I want to drop the stroke because stroke is the target, is what we want to predict. So I don't want to include it in the input again. It's supposed to be our Y. The stroke is our Y. Now we have the X, which is supposed to be the input variable or our feature. And we have the target, which is Y, which is the stroke. We want to do a model, a classification model to predict this. I said there's an argument of whether we should use the same data we trained the model with to test on it. And one thing I could say is this cannot work because remember your model has already all the information about your data that you have trained it with. So if you are trying to test it with the same data, it will definitely give you 100% accuracy. And that cannot communicate how robust or how well your model is predicting the values. So we decide to, I always advise that we use them. We have the train and the testing variable, the training and the testing data. So we use the split. This is from sklearn library, which deals with machine learning, which has like all functions or with machine learning. And this is what we now do. We split the data to training and testing. You can either get 80% of your data to be training and 20% to be testing, all 70% and 30. That is the range that is mostly used. So we have our data. The next thing we do is we split it, and we now see that our data is going to have like the training data set as the first shape, the test set has the second shape. The next thing we could think of is, remember we have some variables like BMI where we have values so far. This is where I always say it's good, it's advisable to do scaling unless you are sure your data is like not so widespread, like with the standard deviation that spread. Otherwise, you might get good results even without scaling if your data is well distributed, but if not, you will then not get the accurate results. So I always advise that we do the scaling. Once we do the scaling, we now have our data set, we have the training and the testing data set. It's now to go ahead and do the fit of our model. So which model do you want to use? In classification, we have a number of models. We can have random forests, which is like ensemble or a collection of tree decision trees. You can use logistic regression, which is the basic regression, like probability of a given instance being in one class or the other. You can decide to use the SVM, that is the support vector machine. I think more of it we could read on it because of the length of session. So quickly, we want to check on logistic regression and see how it could be if we wanted to use the logistic regression to do our classification. We just need to import this logistic regression from the sklearn package. And we go ahead and say we want to fit our training model. We want to train our model. That is where we use .fit. We are training on only the trained data set. Then we go ahead to now predict on the test set. Then we go ahead to see the results it gives us. Then with results, you can only be interested to see the accuracy, or you can be interested to see the F1 score. You can be interested to see precision or recall, depending on what you want to, but most people in classification, they prefer using the accuracy. This is the most used, and also the area under the curve, which is more graphical. You can also do the same with random forest. And the good thing with random forest, it can even help you get the importance of your features, how important the feature is in that case. Like you can see from this, it looks like the average glucose is more important to prediction of the stroke than other variables. And it's not limited to this. Another thing you could do with your data, it could be to try and get the clusters. This is the unsupervised learning, because machine learning has the supervised aspect and the unsupervised aspect. I quickly want to show a case with NLP. I don't know whether we still have time or we need to get the thing so that we show NLP, then we quickly do the one debugging so quickly. Do we still have a minute, or this is time for questions, please?
I think we have
Sorry,
like
Angela.
Yes. Do you have some 5 minutes, or we should shift to questions, please?
You can add the additional 5 minutes. It's all right to finish up.
Thanks. So we talked, all we have talked is trying to either predict do the classification of whether it's in the stock or not in the stock, or trying to get the prediction of the of whether the BMI value is supposed to be predicted to be 10 point something or 100 point something. What of a case where you are now, you have data, a data like this data set? I picked this from one of the challenges I did some times back. And this is what you have as your data. You have, it's like medical reviews that you have like this. And they want you to do an analysis to help them boost to help them gain from this data. This is what you have. Thinking of this, I cannot predict the gender of my patients. I need to do something more. This is where now the advanced machine learning models come in, like the natural language processing, which tries to now analyze what we have as sentence or as findings. This column will try to be analyzed to give some substance from it. And in that case, what we do, this is all pre-processing. That is why I'm moving through it quickly so that I show you. In such a case, even now the pre-processing will slightly change, because what you have to do now with that data is that you want to go in and pre-process data which is more of strings or only words. This is where now you will try and drop the art, try to drop the, if you have some words like for, which I'll call the stop words, and make your data more clean. After that, now you will then try to go and do what we call the natural language pre-processing, trying to understand what you have, what is most in your data. For instance, patient therapy within our data, that is what we have. We have treatment being more, and so on. But not limited to this, because you can also classify whether the comment is positive or negative, but now using the transformer models, which is much, and if you want to read more on this, you can go to Again Face platform. They have like a whole documentation of all that models. I think that is all I can just show. And with the debugging, sorry, with the debugging. With debugging, one thing I could recommend is we had some error, for instance, like this, and you're not sure of what that error is, or you just want to understand what it is. You cannot understand, you're so new to Python. One thing I will recommend is you can get this error, take it to Google. That is assuming you don't really know what that error is. You're so new to programming and you don't have all the time to go back and read everything. You can, it's like as cheap as copying this error, going to Google and try to search for it. Or for the good people who are using ChatGPT, it's as easy as going in, logging into ChatGPT, and you just ask ChatGPT what it is. Then it might not give you 100% sure of what it is, but at least it will give you an hint of what it is. For instance, if I come and give my error, it will just tell me this should resolve the attribute error. It gives me some things, and before that, it tells me some things also before. Replace this line with this, and so on. And another most effective tool, if you are in VS Studio, it's like if you have the Copilot part of it, you just need to also go to the Copilot, just give your code, let them do it, help you debug through. They can give you some suggestions on what you need to do, because some errors comes as a result of the type of Python you're using. Like for instance, when I was doing this, I was using Python 3.88. But when I come back to my Anaconda has Python 11.12, it will still give me problems. So yeah, I had like a lot I wanted us to cover, but time is on our side. I think I could just allow us maybe to ask for clarification or some things on what we can improve. It's like more of different each and every time when you have a presentation to do or to give. I always like that feedback part, like you could have done this more and that for the sake of next time, and any question that we could be having.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot, Angela. That was a very informative session. You have a wealth of knowledge, clearly. So it's a pleasure to have you here to do this for us. So we have a question here in the chat, and also as Angela has requested, she may require some feedback. Feel free to reach out to her in case you have any feedback you want to share with her, or you want to connect with any of the speakers. Please reach out to them on their LinkedIn profiles. So the question is, how would you handle a data set with, say, 5% of missing data in multiple predictor variables, but rather than dropping the nulls, you want to impute the missing data? What approach would you recommend?
So the ones they have in multiple predictive, okay, let me go here so that a data set, it has 5% missing data in the predictor variable, yeah. But rather than dropping the nulls, you want to impute the missing data. What approach could you recommend? So this will be purely depend on the fields, the field that you are applying this to. That is one thing I could tell you, because in some fields, let's say for instance, you are dealing with cancer patients. You're dealing with cancer patients' case data sets. In such a case, you already understand how sensitive this is, how your prediction is. So you don't want first to use you don't want to use, for instance, the median, because the median might not be the case. You also don't want to use a given value to fill in that data. You also could not want to use the mean in that case, because you might have some patients more risk than the other. And in such a case, one approach I could take if I was in the cancer patient case, if I was to risk in that data set, dealing with patients, for instance, I could say, okay, let me pick the mod. Mod, this is the most case. I'll pick the mod to be able to fill in. But again, if I was in credit score, for instance, in finance, I could not use the mod. So one thing I've seen myself doing in most cases, handling missing values in dealing with data. It's all field specific, because handling patient is more delicate. We need to make any prediction we are doing as much accurate as possible and give the true picture as much as possible. And if I go to credit score, my way is always like the banks want to make sure it's better they don't give somebody a loan than giving somebody who is not going to return. So with that, like if I was to fill in the missing value, I'll go with the highest value in that case. So to answer that is to tell you, is first to understand where your data is, how delicate or how important the aspect you're trying to predict is. And in such a case, maybe we also to have to slightly shift to diagnostic analysis to understand more of how to be able to balance that. You know, we have predictive, we have prescriptive analysis, we also have diagnostic analysis, which more of gives you the hint of how to handle some of the cases. Because one thing I've noticed is like most times we go to predictive more. So I'm not sure, I don't think if I've answered that to their satisfaction, but that is what I have.
I think that was quite comprehensive. Thank you. So just as a final thanks to you, Angela, thank you so much for the session. And we hope that we can even delve in deeper and be able to finish up on the notebooks next time. We'll allocate more time to it, but that was very comprehensive and great.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So up next we do apologize that we're at the end of the session, but we request for maybe 5 minutes or so to be able to cover some of the questions that we had in our surveys and some of the questions that we've had about WiDS Africa so far. So I'll hand over the session to some of my teammates, Chinakao and Mahadia, to be able to take us through the next session. If you're in a position to, please stick around, but if not, we do thank you for joining the session.
Thank you, everyone.
Chinakao and Mahadia, are you there?
Hi, there's Mahadia. I think Mahadia is best suited to take this section. Thanks.
Great. Okay, Mahadia, if you can hear us, please unmute and speak.
Yeah. Hello. So
Awesome.
we had some very good question. Because of time, I think we can bundle some of the question and response to a few. We had a question from a colleague asking about this was asking about how do you ensure that fast-paced AI application while ensuring local governance structures are in place. So yeah, how do you ensure fast-paced AI application while ensuring local governance structure in place? So I think we must, especially in our context of African, where we are embarking towards the fourth industrial revolution. I think it's the important case is to be more inclusive. We must collaborate. It's not something that we can take care as academicians alone, or it can be taken care by those who are making policy. So this is like a co-creation kind of a of a situation where we must collaborate, engage local stakeholder, including government official, community leaders, and civil society organization to co-design the governance frameworks that align with our African values and needs. But also, I would say, capacity building and advocacy to raise awareness about AI. And I see that WiDS Africa is doing just that, as well as we have WiDS Global and other initiative across. So the key thing I would reiterate is to co-design solutions and encourage as well, but also in the same case, being as inclusive as possible, including women and youth as part of the process. Because as we advance, we also want to ensure that we do not widen up the digital divide that already exists. And then so that was a more of a policy governance question, but also we had a question on what does it take to get into the healthcare field of data science. So this one, I would say, is to enroll to the relevant causes, but also join the relevant community as well as local training hub within your region, because sometimes you'll benefit from a lot of information when you're part of a hub or you are part of a certain community. And we had gathered some of the yeah, so sorry. We had gathered some of the, okay, I'll share at some point, but we had gathered some of the links that we will share in the chat where you can, where we have gathered some, different courses offered online on data analytics in data science. So that could be your starting point. And these courses ranges from a beginner level to advanced level. So you have a wide variety of selection. Yeah, and there was also a question on mentorship opportunity for beginners, like, yeah, mentorship of opportunities for beginners. So in addition to joining communities and hub within areas that you work, there are some of the organizations that provide mentorship support, I think. So one of the one that like personally I'm involved is the Data Visualization Society. And the good thing about it, it involves like you can be co-mentored by people across the globe. It's an online mentorship program. I will also share shortly over the chat. That could be also part of it. But I think I would also recommend also participating in such meetings. Identify people, like for instance, we have seen various presentation, and if something aligns your interest, you can always ask people for their emails and start conversations, because that's how you build network. And that person can be your mentor at some point. As well as we have deep learning in DABA. There are courses and data science professionals across Africa. Yeah, so that's another part that you could leverage, as well as with global training programs. I'll also share the link shortly over the chat. We also, someone asked about the notes. So we will share some of the presentation. They'll be shared via your emails. So this is thank you for the presenters. Yeah, so I think those, if I bundle up, those are the responses to different questions. I will just go ahead and share the variance link over the chat. Back to you, Philomena.
All right, thanks a lot, Mahadia. Mahadia is one of our longest standing ambassadors. So thanks a lot for sharing your insights. Yeah, so now we have officially come to the end of the session. I would encourage anybody who has any further questions, especially in regard to the sessions that we've had, please reach out to the individual speakers. Because of time, we may not be able to go beyond this at the moment. But please also reach out to us in case you need us to be able to connect you to the relevant people that you may want to connect to. Yeah, thank you so much for joining, everyone, and feel free to drop off. And also make sure to register for our upcoming conference, whether you'll be joining us virtually or physically in Cape Town. I would be excited to have you on board. Thank you.